Stone walls are a great drawing subject, and they're also a great hatching subject. A great subject where we can experiment with our hatching, with the line direction, with the effects that we can create with it. So I thought this dry stone wall that I passed as I was going for a walk was a great subject. I thought it was a nice dramatic angle, and it had some nice, clearly visible stones. Now, this first part, I'm just basically drawing what I call my outline. As you know, I don't usually draw an outline of the whole scene, but because this is a relatively simple scene and most of the work will be done by the hatching, by the values that we create with the hatching, and also because with stone, we want to get a nice soft edge to even broken stone. So I needed to keep my lines not too locked in, leave room for creating more effect later on. So for all those things, I'm going with a lighter line, and I'm going to go all over as well, because I also want to create a strong sense of closeness with this center part where the dry stone wall is closest to us, and then create a sense of distance moving away, which is done partly through line work, but it is also done partly through our hatching. The effect we create of distance as the wall moves away is important in giving us a sense of this is a wall that's moving away from us. And even though this isn't a rigidly, architecturally straight, angled wall, it still is definitely moving away from us in a wall-shaped way. So therefore, the perspective, the foreshortening, has to have a sense of being there, of happening. And these are all the things I'm bearing in mind. Now, I do make a mistake, for all those who love me to point out my mistakes in my drawings. When I go down with this row of blocks of stone, I miss one. What I do is I draw the top two lines, and I think that's the whole stone, but I've actually missed the side, and so I'm lacking a row. So I simply, in effect, remove one row of stones from this closest part, if you understand what I mean there. But a dry stone wall is a remarkably forgiving subject if we need to slightly manipulate or massage what we've drawn. There's usually room and scope to change it so it still looks just as credible as if it were the original. The biggest challenge with these is to create enough differences between the stones, and yet at the same time, especially as we go off to the left, keep the sense of perspective happening and allow enough perceivable foreshortening to give us the visual clues that this wall is moving away from us. And the fact that we draw the stones, the rocks, lighter and with less detail as they move further away will also help. But the real significance, I think, comes when we apply the hatching in a short while, and the different hatching effects we create for the further away objects. Now, this was quite a long drawing for me. It took me almost 40 minutes to do, most of which was the hatching. You're watching this double time, so if you want to see this part at real time, just use that cog icon to reduce the speed of the video to half time, and you can watch me draw it at real time. When we get to the hatching shortly, that's actually sped up to 3 times drawing speed. But again, you can use the cog icon to slow it down to real time if you'd like to watch me do it at the rate that I did it. Some people say watching me hesitate helps them to understand my thinking and the places where I was working out what to do, and that's helpful. So if it is, no problem at all. So again now, in my outlining manner, I'm just establishing now the major garden components. And there is this tree here. I don't normally like to do long straight lines, but I know for trunks, but I know that with how the bark is here and how I'm going to render this, those won't actually be the final outlines and they won't be noticeable. They'll be just swept up in being part of the hatching for the tree. So trying to establish a couple of other parts of the garden, where the ground slopes up. Now I'm just showing you, this was my experimental mark making before I started to draw. This was just playing with the two closest rocks and working out how will I capture the effect of the edges and the different directions of the faces of the stone and the shadows between them. And that's what I refer to when I talk about my marks experimentation at the start. And it also is a superb warming up exercise to do. It gets me thinking in the right place when I start, so that my first marks on the paper, my first hand-eye movements and ink effects aren't cold. Of course, what usually happens is I end up preferring the marks I make on my mark making experimentation before I start. And I think it's often because I'm that much more relaxed when I do them. So at this point, I'm starting with the closest stones because they're the ones that we see in the most detail, and they're also the ones that we're going to have the darkest values around in the shadows, and where we have the darkest line work, where we have line work on edgings of the stone. And that will help them come closer. And there'll be more detail on these. There'll be little dots and things that I'll place on these closest ones, hopefully fairly randomly. And that gives the feeling that these are small shadows and basically some sort of detail that we can see because these stones are closer. So they do increase the visual effect of closeness. And by not then putting them on the further back stones, again, we help push them further away. Now, my principle for hatching, which is often a problem in terms of what line direction to use, is use a direction that will suggest the underlying form, but we also have to use a direction that will create whatever sense of distinction, separation we need between adjoining areas that are hatched. So it's a juggle of those two things, and you could see from that there's clearly no obvious right or wrong for that. It's what works in the particular circumstance, which is why drawing this is such a good practice. And to help you practice the hatching of these stones, I'm going to post on my channel community page not just my reference photo, but I actually took a photo of my line drawing before I began to put this hatching on. So if you want, you can just speed up the hatching practice experience and screenshot and print off a copy of my line drawing, and then you can start with the hatching. And of course, the great thing is you can do this 2 or 3 or 4 times and experiment in hatching the stonework in different ways. And you can also, and I suggest you do this, experiment with hatching the garden in the upper half, because that's the sort of area that often causes problems. And I wouldn't limit yourself to trying to reproduce the way I've done it, but I would experiment with it, play around with different marks and see what sort of effect you can create. You might actually go better than me on it, so why not give it a go? I think that would be great. So this is 3 times drawing speed. And once I've established some of the darkness and detail of the closer rocks, I then can push further along going back, because now I know what I have to go lighter than, and I can go lighter than. Now I can make these closest rocks more detailed, darker, sharper in definition, and then I can push back with those effects a little bit more. But the thing is to keep working back and forth with hatching with values over our whole scene, because as we change the values, the darkness in one part with greater hatching or cross hatching, we may need to make adjustments in other parts And we do need to show restraint because obviously once we've put the ink on the paper, we can't take it off. So we need to go a little bit carefully and not get carried away, particularly in the further away parts. Because if we put too much ink, we obviously can't do anything about that. But I hope you can see that right now, the center and the right-hand parts feel closer than the left-hand parts. And while I do add a little more detail to the left-hand parts, in many ways I don't add much at all, not compared to what I've done on the right-hand side. So I'm trying to do my hatching lines in directions that suggest the plane of the rock, and of course those planes change and even curve according to how the rock's been broken. Where those hatch lines end also define an edge, and sometimes that edge is fairly sharply broken off, and sometimes it's a much softer, slightly more rounded edge. And I'm trying to give variety of ways of capturing the effect of that so that we feel like these rocks have all the variety of edging, sharp, soft, rounded, broken, and so forth, that real dry stone wall rocks have. And so now I'm into capturing something of the effect of the detail of the garden. Now, I want the stones, the rocks, the wall to be the main thing. And so I don't want to draw even these closest plants with the same clarity and focus that I've done for the rocks. And yet I do need to have some measure of those things just so they sit forward of the tree and of the plants on the other side of the tree. So it's juggling a fine line all the time. We do a bit, we then think, oh, I have to adjust another bit. Oh, no, I better adjust another bit. Now I have to change that bit or add a bit more darkness to that. The one thing, as I said, we can't do is take the marks off, take the ink off. So always restraint and always referring back to what we want the closest part of our drawing to be, and to make sure that whatever we put further back, we maintain visually that difference between near and far, that we don't start to put too much ink in the further parts and therefore make them feel a bit closer. So now I'm doing just some lines to represent the bark. This is a backlit scene, which does make the shadows a little more confusing. It's sort of an even light that we're seeing over most of this scene and over all of the stone wall. It doesn't actually get any direct light the way some of the ground and the plants do. You can see how briskly I did those lines in the center left for some of the foliage that's in the shadow on the far side of the tree. And I don't change it much. Notice what I did there, where I darkened the furthest background value that I was adding, darkened it relative to the photo, because I needed to make the tree stand out more. And this is where it's really important, when we hatch, if at all possible, to make adjustments with our reference just to provide greater contrast between values so that they don't risk becoming two mid values that are very similar next to each other, because that will make it harder to tell what it is. And now I've got these darker values in my reference, but this is where I have to show some restraint, because I can't, or I don't want to, make them as dark as my darkest hatching on the stone wall in the front center. I want it, or for that matter, on the tree. I still need to push it back. So it's darker, yes, but it's darker relative to the other dark areas I've established. And I'm also using larger, more apart lines, which does create longer lines, which therefore means I'm really just capturing the value and not any detail. And that also, I think, helps give a sense of it all going further back with that tree, that small tree in the upper left. Now I'm just making the final adjustments to the wall that goes along, because I now have a sense of, well, I've finished the rest of it, and so I don't want to leave it looking too underdone, because then it will just look like I haven't finished it. But I don't want to go too far down there still. And now just adding some dark lines. See what I'm doing there? To get some edges looking a little more focused, so just to pop those stones closer to us. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you print off a copy of my line work so that you can just start with the hatching and really experiment over a few copies with it. Why not? But look, whatever you draw, however you draw it, hatching or not, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.